Hi, Green Team. We're getting ready for April 9th. I'm Christy, and this month we're talking about humility. Remember, humility is putting others first by giving up what you think you deserve. This week we're going to get into a story in Matthew, chapter 26, verses 36 through 56. This is when Jesus is praying in the garden. So the triumphal entry has happened. He's been in the upper room with the disciples, serving the Passover meal and washing their feet like we did last week. And now he's retreated to the garden to pray. And while he's there in the garden, Jesus showed unbelievable understanding of how important it was to put the will of the Father first and ahead of his own will. Many times as he was out there praying, he cried out to God and said, God, if there's any other way, please let's do that. Because he knew what was coming. He knew why he came to earth, and he prayed for the Father to make another way. But Jesus had to let go of what he wanted for the sake of saving the world from sin. At some point in all of our lives, we'll be faced with a decision to give up something we want for the sake of someone else. And ultimately, we will all have to face daily how we will yield to God's design for our lives. For Jesus, that was a matter of life and death. While that may not be the case for us, and I hope not, showing humility in situations is still very important. We pray that kids will realize that showing humility is often more important than getting our way. God is more important than what I want and need. How many times have you heard that? But when I take a few minutes and let that really sink in, I realize that I get in the way a lot of times for what God had a better design for. It's not about me. I'm going to go through the activities that you'll have in your basket. Remember, when we give you all of these activities, our design is not that you have to complete every single one of them, but I'd like for you to know what's there so that you can know better how to direct your kids. This is for kindergarten, first, and second graders. So your opening activity is creating a kingdom. And we started this activity last week. They'll do it all month. And ideally, I think it would be great if you use your big piece of poster board or butcher paper and cover it with a gigantic kingdom that you're dreaming up. And each week it could be a little something different that you add to your kingdom that you're creating with the kids together. It gives them a reason to come back in because they want to see what they did last week and add to it. And it also helps you find a way to engage with the kids that maybe weren't there last week and help them see what you're doing and use their creativity. If you'd prefer to make it an individual activity, you're welcome to do that. We'll provide you with paper to do that as well. And then we're going to head into large group. And during large group this week, I'd like for the kids to do a small activity. I'm going to have paper bags for them, and I'd like for them to decorate those paper bags. There'll be stickers and some stamps and maybe some crayons or markers for them to decorate their bag. And what I'm going to ask them to do on that bag is to think about somebody that they would like to tell Jesus about. And so they're going to give that bag to that person. So it should be somebody local that they can get the bag to pretty easily. And what we want them to do is when they leave for the day, they're going to get 2 stuffed Easter eggs and a card that has all our Easter information on it for our family Easter celebration, which will be April 15th, next Saturday at 4:00 p.m. And during that celebration, we will have a very clear message about who Jesus is and why he came to be humble for us and die for us. And then there'll be an Easter egg hunt and some other fun activities. And so we want for kids to know that they can be a part of inviting people to be a part of it as well. And it's kind of showing them a little bit of humility because they're going to have to give these 2 eggs that they probably really want the candy out of to somebody else to show them who Jesus is. And so we'll pray with them about that, but I'm really excited about sending those home with the kids and getting them engaged in the conversation. Your next activity that you have is your application activity for the day. And you'll have some cards in an envelope like this. And the activity is called What's That? And what you're going to do is give each kid, a strip of paper. Now you may have some kids that don't read well, so you'll help them read what's on their card. And they'll get a strip of paper, a blank piece of paper, and some crayons or markers, your choice really. And they're going to draw what's on their piece of paper. Like this one says, Jesus told the disciples he was about to be arrested. And each of these strips has something to do with the Bible story we did today. And so you'll give the kids a few quiet moments to color their picture by themselves. Each kid will have something different, so they shouldn't have to copy anybody else's, but you may need to help them know what to do. You also may have one that likes to spend a lot of time and put lots of detail in their picture, which is a great thing, but to remind them that we're going to share it, and so they may not be completely finished, but you'll give them some time in a few minutes to finish their activity. And so what we would like for them to do after they're done, after you see most everybody's completed their picture, is have them show everybody else their picture and have everybody else in the group figure out what it is that's going on in their picture. You may have to feed a few clues in there to everybody, help them remember, hey guys, remember this was in the Bible story, it happened here, here, and here. There are lots of the parts to the story today, so you make sure to look at the notes on what to say. It'll help you be able to direct the discussion. Your next activity is a memory verse activity, and we've got cute little ducks for the kids. And really, this is just a way to separate into each group. So if the ducks become an issue and people want to fight over them or whatever, you can leave your ducks in your basket. That's not going to be a problem. You can separate them into 3 groups without using ducks. It's just kind of a fun way to engage the kids and have them have something to play with. I'd like to get all the ducks back because this is an activity we're doing for the whole month. But on the bottom of each duck there's a number, and the number will help them separate into their groups. Group 1 will have a part of the memory verse, Group 2 will have a part of the memory verse, and Group 3 will have a part of the memory verse. And you can have them act out that part of the memory verse. You can have them come up with motions to do to that part of the memory verse. However is going to help them remember it. And you can get creative as the month goes on with that. Then in the last activity, it's a prayer activity. And something we didn't really emphasize with the kids through our application activity, but it was a big part of this story, is every time Jesus came back to the disciples, they were asleep and they were not paying attention, and they were not engaged in everything. And I'm sure they were tired. They had a long day, but Jesus kept finding them asleep. And so you can talk with the kids about how they love their bed, or they love their blanket, or they have a special snuggle thing that they snuggle with, or their pillows. And you're going to ask your kids to put their hands together to make like a pillow, like this. And remind them that was a part of our story today, that the disciples kept falling asleep while Jesus prayed and faced the idea of what was coming next. And while they're praying today, you're going to have them hold their pillow on their head while they're praying, so that they remember that it's not a time to fall asleep and that we need to focus on Jesus. If that is too much for you, that's not a problem. It's just kind of a fun way to get the kids engaged some more in this story. A little leader tip for you today: try to get to know one of your kids' names. See if there's something that you remember about them, so that the next time you're there to spend some time with them, you can call them by name. As you get to know their names better, they begin to engage with you in a different way. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos and that it's helpful. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'll see you again soon. Have a good week.